In this video, we're going to talk about how to run the script that does the parallel grid LCPC transform. We are on the GitHub repository, and the script is right here. It's a Jupyter notebook. I've also included practice files for you to run. When you open this Jupyter notebook file, it will look like this. I recommend you read these instructions, know them well. As a quick summary, this script was meant to take in images that are blue pixels on a white background, as you see here. And for every input file you give, 4 output files will be produced. And the final result file is the one with the word compiled FFT in it. It's a CSV file. I also highly recommend that you read these pro tips and watch each of these videos to learn very important details about how to use this script properly. The video in number 7 is the one that you're actually watching right now. In order to run this script, you need to first load the dependencies. If they aren't on your computer, then you have to install them. And then you just need to paste in the file path to your working directory that contains your images. On a Mac, if these are my input files, I control-click and then hold Option so I can copy the file path name. And then I paste in the file path name here. Once I've done that, I make sure that my cursor is still in this cell, and I can go run and just click run all cells. And what that will do is that will take me to the bottom of this screen. And for those who are not familiar with Jupyter Notebook, if you see that this bracket is blank, that means an error occurred somewhere above. When you do run all, each bracket should have either a star or a number in it. A star means that it's next in line to be processed. A number means that it has already been processed. So if you see blank bracket at the bottom, that means an error occurred somewhere above. Another way to tell if an error occurred is if your working directory does not contain this CSV file called compiled FFT, because this is the final output, letting you know that the script has finished and was run successfully. Regarding these pro tip videos, they're also on our website. If you go to tsg-lab.org and click on this option that says LCPC transform, this page contains all our tutorial videos. I highly recommend you watch part 2 to 4 before you run the scripts. Let's now look at some example files. So in example 1, what you have are these lines that are further and further away from the left. And at the left, there is a small line, which we call a spacer. The output files contains an image that ends with the word stencil. And we included this image because it's how you do quality control check. If we look at this image, you can see that the 2 lines have been divided into small lines representing intersections of the parallel grid with the blue lines that we began with. The reason why we added this little blue line is to track spatial context. In this case, this little blue line might represent the direction of gravity or the direction of the sun or the midline of the body. The LCPC transform is very special in that it's able to capture the spatial context of a shape, which no other method can do, such as volume, area, surface area, perimeter, etc. I highly recommend watching this video in part 3 called How to Prepare Shapes for the Parallel Grid System. It contains amazingly useful information on how to maximize the parallel grid system in your research. Let's now look at the second example. So for these, the input file are rectangles. You have a short one, a medium one, and a tall one. And for these, the output files are here. Let's look at the stencils. Here is the short rectangle. As you can see, the parallel grid system detects a bottom edge, top edge, and the left and right edges. If you go to the medium rectangle, you see that it detects the same. But if you go to the tall rectangle, you see that the top line is missing. This is not an error. The reason this happens sometimes is because the parallel grid system applies a parallel grid line every 5 pixels from the bottom all the way to the top. And if a horizontal line happens to fit in between these parallel grid lines, then that horizontal line will not be detected. This happens depending on the thickness of any horizontal lines. If it was much thicker than 5 pixels, then there's a strong chance that it will still be detected. But in this case, it was just the right thickness to be missed. Again, the parallel grid system applies a horizontal grid line every 5 pixels from the bottom all the way to the top. Again, I cannot highlight enough the importance of watching this video, which would tell you how to best use the parallel grid system for your research question. It can measure spatial information in ways that no other method can. Let's look at a third example of images. Here we have an image of this pear shape, but we also have an image of the pear shape that contains debris pixels. Sometimes there are debris in the image that the human eye cannot see, but that the script will detect. When we run these images through the script, here are the output files. If you look at the stencil image for the correct shape, you see that the intersections represent the shape that you began with, which was this. But if you look at the image with debris, its stencil includes an object up here and an object right here. This stencil will give very different results than this stencil. This is the reason why we included this stencil image in the output files so that you can do quality control check. It's important to make sure that your stencil represents the shape that you began with. The stencil should not have any extra space above, on the right, or below. Going back to our other example images, notice that for this image, once it's converted to a stencil, there is no extra white space above, on the right, or the bottom. The same applies for this image. Its stencil has no extra space above, on the right, or the bottom. The parallel grid system always measures from the left. It finds the leftmost blue pixel and defines the starting point of all horizontal lines to be 10 pixels to the left of the leftmost blue pixel. Regarding the output file with the words compiled FFT in it, for tips on how to analyze that, I recommend watching part 4, in which you can learn how to create simple indices from the output file or to analyze the output file multidimensionally. We have a page called Use Cases of LCPC where you can watch how we applied these algorithms to various fields of science to get a better idea of the creative ways for using the LCPC transform.